Welcome back to the Human Perspective. We're going to be talking with Jessica Jimenez, who has been the chairperson of the Youth Caucus for the National Council on Independent Living, and now, because she's getting older, is transitioning off and is going to be the co-chair of the Women's Caucus for the National Council. Welcome to the program.
What's up?
Very happy that you're here, and maybe you could give us a little bit of information about who you are.
Well, I don't really like to brag about myself, but I got into the disability movement about 3 years ago when I first came to Nickel, and when I was a YO member for YO Disabled and Proud.
And what is YO?
YO is an organization out in California, and I want to give a shout out to Christina Mills, who actually got me involved in YO, and who brought me to Nickel, because if it wasn't for Christina, I wouldn't be the advocate, the big disability advocate as I am. Because of her, I was able to go to Sacramento, here to DC, and be a part of Nickel and meet so many people that are just as passionate as the disability movement as I am. And before Nickel, I was big on the reproductive justice front. And
What does that mean?
I was a big part of like the feminist movement, but I was a part of like just reproductive rights. And I mean, in college I wrote a paper on reproductive issues, but also disability issues, like on my disability, epilepsy. But there wasn't that much research, and that's something that when I went into the feminist movement inside the reproductive organizations, they didn't have much on disability, and I would want to push issues on disability, and they'd always tell me it wasn't the time. And when I got involved with the Youth Caucus this past year, we actually started a sex education toolkit, which is we're finishing it up like by this September, and it should be on the Nickel page for not just the disability organizations, but for any organization that would like to use that toolkit within their workshops.
To help integrate disability. So
Yeah.
what are some of the issues that face disabled women that were so concerning to you when they were being ignored by other organizations?
Well, like for me, I take medication, and when I was looking into the research on like birth control, there's different types of birth control, like hormonal and non-hormonal, and like with the different kinds of epilepsy, there's different medications that the birth control can affect. And sometimes when you take like more Americans that are able-bodied take the hormonal pill, but they don't know the side effects of birth control. And it wasn't just about my epilepsy and being addicted to the birth control, as it is like when people with disabilities take medication, they get addicted to the medication, and then having to be addicted to birth control is like another thing that I took a notice at, because I actually read into studies about menopause. And I mean, when people with disabilities go through menopause, it's a lot different. Sometimes it's similar, but it's a lot different. I mean, for some women, like for me, having epilepsy, my seizures could either increase or decrease. It depends. And I also looked at, like when I got out of college, I focused more on not just mental disabilities, I focused also on physical disabilities. And it was really important to me to see how we can integrate disability and reproductive issues, because some people are allergic to latex, and just like sexual abuse, things like that are not getting discussed within the disability community.
So have you been working with, I guess, what are some of your aspirations now that you're going to be the co-chair of the Women's Nickel Committee? What are you hoping to achieve with that?
What I liked was that I was sort of already working with the Women's Caucus, because my first year on Nickel, they already included me within the Women's Caucus, which was really neat because there are so many women in Nickel, that never really joined a caucus or a subcommittee. And my first year, I automatically got involved with the Youth Caucus. And they had a big meeting with the Women's Caucus. And so I was in a room of women of different ages, but women with disabilities that understood not just what I went through, but like go through what I go through, but they have similar obstacles that I have, and it's not just my obstacles of like debating on having birth control, but things about wanting to have children. It's like I always thought I'm not gonna have children because there's so many barriers, there's so many things I have to do, and also my friends never really understood what I have to go through, the things I actually have to plan out, and how there is communication between your partner, and many people don't realize that communication is key, especially when you have a disability, and if you're a woman. Like sometimes you do have to take charge, especially being a woman with a disability, and if you want children. But when I was in that space with the women on the 25th anniversary, it was so remarkable because I've been in a space with women but without disabilities, and we were talking about reproductive issues, but they didn't really understand disability and reproductive health. So when I would bring it up, they're like, that's a good point. But at Nickel, with all those women that understood, like they understood what I was going through as a young person, because many of them have already gone through it, and so it was really nice.
So, you mentioned the word violence, and I'm wondering, have you done any work in the area of violence against disabled women? And what do you see as some of the challenges that exist in that area to be able to help expose the problem?
The work against violence that I've done, I would say that I haven't done much with the disability community, and that's something that I like to target because I have focused a lot on the youth these past 3 years, and it's really difficult to try to get them integrated into like every issue, and I myself focus on the issues that I'm very passionate about, because when I went to school, I went into women's studies to focus on women's issues because I didn't know anything about women's issues. And I was so empowered by learning about the violence against women, like trafficking and everything like that. And that was so important to me. And I still want to carry it on. And to be part of the Women's Caucus, I think I can, as a young woman, can make it stronger, get more women involved, and also probably get some youth involved. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Do you see additional problems that women from the Latino community, the Asian American community, African American community may be facing on gender-related issues, including violence? And what are some of your thoughts about that?
I see it every day. Like I have a couple friends that are always telling me about their issues within like the community, and for me, I see it just because I have family that has lighter skin than me, but I am the darker one, and I do experience the violence. Like if I open my mouth and I go out there and I tell them what I think is wrong, I mean, I may come from a liberal state, but it depends. It doesn't matter if you're in a liberal state. It matters what atmosphere you're in and who is around you. So it's like where you're at, who's around you, and what opinion you're talking about. Because at the same time, not everybody's going to agree with you, and the only person you can really depend on is yourself. Even if you have allies next to you, the only person you can depend on is yourself. And like the violence that a lot of women of color have is because they're silent. Many women stay silent, especially in the Latinx community. It's so traditional, and I myself grew up in a semi-traditional home, and I was silent for so long. And when I got to college, I was like, I'm not going to be silent anymore. And I have become a strong woman advocating for what I believe in is right, and even when people tell me that I can't do it, I prove them wrong.
So I think that's a great closing. I'm not going to be silent anymore.
Yeah.
It's probably something we can do a whole series on. And we're lucky that you're going to be the co-chairperson of the Women's Committee, so we'll have other opportunities to talk with you about the work that you're doing. So I'd like to thank you all for joining. I'd like to thank Jessica for taking the time out to do this, and we'll see you soon.